if Mecca only had 500 animals, then you would need 1,500 square kilometers of grazing land to sustain those animals. Now, I went out and found there are different categorizations of uh, grazelands, right? You got grasslands, you've got shrubbery, and you've got sparse vegetation. Now, in the region of Mecca and Medina, and most of the other cities where all those battles took place, that Muhammad was going to battles of Badr and battle of, this and that, and they all took place in hyper-arid regions, right? So what I'm saying is that the amount of rainfall and the amount of grazing lands was very, very sparse, right? Because it was sparse vegetation all the way down to near the forest before you get to Yemen. Okay. So now you're going 300 kilometers, I think, down to get grazeland. And then you only got some grazeland, not even up to Medina. You only got from Mecca halfway up to Medina to graze. And looking at it, if you had only 500 people living in Mecca, they would take up lots and lots of the grazing land surrounding Mecca and wouldn't leave much for Medina. It doesn't matter just how much water you get, it matters how much grass there is for those animals. So that breaks everybody's theory with a dose of reality. Okay. So now in a hyper arid area, you're not going to have, you know why? It's even more hyper arid than you can imagine because the rainfall that happens, most of it is between November and January. Okay. 3 months out of the year. The rest of the 9 months barely have anything. Okay. You want me to send you a picture of the land? I'll send you one.
Hey, Dennis, I'm letting you speak, but
Okay.
it is not making meaning. Okay. To me, it's all dribbles. It's
Okay.
not making meaning. So
All right.
you have to have some sort of a presentation where you have the points to pivot, and you just can't come and tell me a story to believe. These are all stories that don't make really sense, because you also got to understand our paradigm. You might be cooking up a nice story, simmering a story on your cooktop, but it's not going to
Okay.
make meaning to me unless and until you have some points to pivot and make arguments and answer questions. My question to you would be this: when do you think there is historical evidence of the establishment of the port of Jeddah as an operational point of view, a functioning port where there was some sort of commerce and some sort of fisheries happening? And when does the historical evidence point out that this port city was an inlet into the landscape? And what is the best evidence? When did the city of Makkah became established? When exactly? Which caliph established?
Okay.
What does the historical evidence say? Um,
Okay.
what are the
Historically,
historical
Jeddah.
pointers at the establishment of the city of Makkah itself? What?
Okay. So
And
Jeddah
and
was established.
primarily, please let me finish this. Primarily, where do you think Abraham and Ishmael and Hagar were left by Abraham? Or where do you think Hagar encountered the angel who gave her a spring of water to drink? Where do you think that happened? What is that place?
All right. We're talking about when Ishmael was 13 years old. Then I think that was the age that
No, it's irrelevant. The age is irrelevant.
no, because
The
I
most
think that the
important thing
Quran
is
says that
no,
that
the most
Hagar was
important
sent
thing in
away
my
with an infant.
inquiry, what I'm trying to inquire is this: I want to know what was the place where Hagar was given a spring of water by the angel. What
Well, let's
was the
talk about,
place?
okay, let's talk about Hagar first before we get to the angel.
No, it doesn't
And
matter, Dennis.
oh,
It's
no, it
irrelevant.
does. No, it's not
It's
irrelevant.
irrelevant.
You know why? Because there's an impossibility that occurs before the impossible angel occurs.
Dennis, do you agree that the angel of God gave a spring of water for Hagar in the desert somewhere? Do you
You're
agree that
asking me if
happened?
I agree with the Quran?
This is the
600 years
biblical
after
account.
Jesus?
This is a biblical account.
All right, biblical account. How old was Ishmael when
It
Hagar
doesn't
and
matter, my dear
Ishmael
friend.
were sent away by Abraham
It
because he
doesn't
was going to
matter,
have
my
his
dear friend.
child soon? How old was he?
No, you're not getting my point. You're wasting the time right now. You're
Wait, how
wasting
am I
time
wasting time?
because I'm not
Let me
asking
ask you the
about
Quran.
what was the
When the Quran
age.
was there, did Hagar,
I'm
did
I'm
she have
I'm not
Ishmael
talking to
as an
you,
infant and waiting for him to get water?
Dennis. Can I speak, Dennis? I'm not
Sure.
talking to you about the Quran. I'm not talking to you about how old Ishmael was. That is irrelevant. All I want to know is the place. Where did the angel give
Well, you know
Hagar
that place
the
was Mecca.
spring?
You know the
What do
place
you
was Mecca.
think is the place? I'm asking, what do you think is the place?
I think this is all fables. So you can't ask me a question like
So the
that. But
biblical
if you
account
want
is
me to ask,
fable? No,
if
no.
no,
Hang on. You are making a
okay,
comment
I'm
on the
trying to tell you
Bible.
the biblical account, but you're shutting me down. You want to know
No,
the
I'm not
biblical
shutting you
account?
down. I'm asking you the place. I'm asking you the place.
Okay, I'll tell you the place according to the Bible. Okay,
Tell
Hagar was
me.
an Egyptian slave, and um, she couldn't live with Sarah anymore because now Sarah found out she was going to have a baby from God because she overheard God talking with Abraham. And so now she was really hard on Hagar, right? Because she wanted her baby that she had with Abraham within the coming year to be the one that would get all of the blessings and stuff and the numerous nations and all of that, right? So they sent Hagar away, right? So Abraham sent her away with a loaf of bread and probably 2 liters of water. Okay. Now it said that Hagar went west towards Egypt and married Ishmael to an Egyptian over there. Because why would she go south? That would be stupid because she doesn't know anybody over there. She doesn't have any support. 2 liters of water aren't going to get her 1,600 kilometers, in the south in unbelievable hyper arid desert conditions. And she didn't have a camel. She didn't have, 700 bricks of gold to get past all of these people saying, you can't drink from my water unless you pay me the jizya. So she
You're
wasn't going anywhere,
dribbling,
and that was
my dear
before
friend.
Mecca. I know that, but
My dear friend.
the idea
You're
is there.
dribbling.
So
You're dribbling.
you're telling me
You're
she walked
dribbling.
from where you're
You're dribbling.
starting all
All
the
I
way down to
want to
Mecca
know,
with a
all I
child?
want to know is this. All I want to know is this. All I want to know is this. Does the Bible say she went westwards? You give me the Bible verse and I will work with it. Don't make or don't spin your own dribbles.
So you're
Your
saying
own
if I
stories don't mean
logically,
nothing.
okay, I
If the
think that the
Bible
Talmud
said
says,
she went westwards, then your statements are credible. If the Bible
okay, well
doesn't
then
say she went westwards, then you are just making up a bunch of nonsense here.
what's nonsense? Going south 1,600 miles with a kid? And you don't have a car or a camel or anything like that or water. You don't have water sources on the way, and there's desert winds that will just hurt you, and they'll hurt camels and drop a camel. And we don't know what time of the year it was, but 9 months out of the year, she can't make that journey, even if she had animals, right? We're talking about the brutalist force on earth, and you're saying she made it with a child because the Quran says that he was a baby. And you're saying Abraham went over there and visited and all of that and built a Kaaba with his son. But I know that the Bible, it says that uh, Abraham's two sons buried him. That means that Ishmael and Isaac buried their father. Okay? that means that he wasn't that far away. So I think he was in the Nabatean area, and that's where those princes were that came from him. So it doesn't make sense that anything would be down there in desert land. Okay. Now I know that you said, "Oh, did the caliphs invent Muhammad, and did they invent the Quran?" And I say that if you invent something, then what you want is you want to pick an area where all of that shenanigan is going to occur, and that area is going to be in a place that the Byzantines or the Persians or Sassanids, whoever want to call them, that they're going to say that is worthless desert land. We're never ever going to fight for a place like that because we don't want to go by sea. We don't want to go through the arid desert and stuff and risk our lives to go over there. Who would fight for a piece of real estate like Mecca? Let's put that over there. Plus, there's no archaeological artifacts over there. No one can ever come in and say, "Oh, we found something under the earth," and all of that to condemn or find fault with your religion. So there's a whole lot of reasons that I think it's more logical from my point of view, and that Hagar went west than she went south. Because she didn't ride Burka the donkey to go out there and make it into Mecca with her kid and then find out, oh my God, there's no water around here. And they said that Abraham wouldn't even have been able to find firewood or anything to burn a fire. That's how barren it is over there.
The only location information given is a desert, the desert of Beersheba. Doesn't say west.
Oh, where's Beersheba? Let's look at that on the map.
No idea what that's referring to. That's the only thing it says about the location.
Look, the question, the obvious question would be this: let alone Ishmael, who goes back like another 600 years before Moses. We don't even the Bible scholars don't even know which place is Sinai. Do you see the predicament? Ishmael was not even relevant to as Ishmael wasn't even a big figure for Israelites, and Israel was a very little family back then with Abraham and his sons. Israel was basically nothing, nobody, just Abraham, Isaac, and Ishmael. That's all there was. There was nobody to keep track record of what really happened or where who went where. Do you get my point? But when Moses is in the scene, there's a huge group of people, Israelites. At this point in time, we are not even talking about Ishmaelites. All of these are Israelites. And bloody hell, they don't even know which place today is Sinai. They don't even know that. So you want to have some assurance from the heaven that Ishmael went to west. Come on, man.
Okay,
Give me a break.
Okay, maybe
Give
it was
me a
west
break.
of Jerusalem because Beersheba is in Israel.
Well,
It is far from where she was.
That is, you're using place names from over 2,000 years ago. You have no idea what the desert of Beersheba actually is. It's like the Reed Sea in the Moses story. You don't know where that is because no one uses that term anymore. Like it's just place names that were used then, but you don't know.
Let's talk about which city do you think Abraham was in at the time this happened?
Wasn't your original point that Mecca couldn't have a population? Basically,
let's go with where Hagar would have gone, because it's a major point that I have.
The thing is this: if Hagar had stayed in Beersheba, if Hagar had stayed, Dennis, if Hagar had stayed in Beersheba, as you say, which is in Israel, why would the angel come and give her a water well, through a miracle? It wasn't even needed.
How did she get to Mecca, dude? Tell me. I want to know, as a human with intelligence, how did she get to Mecca in the first place? She caught a ride, hitchhiking with her thumb?
The thing is, according to the biblical narrative, she went by herself. And
okay.
Now the thing is what? The angel was with her. The angel was guiding her and gave her a spring of water.
No, I understand that when she was desperate and she was going between the Mount Safra and Marwa or whatever, not the
That's
one by
the Islamic
Petra, but the
narrative.
one.
Forget about it.
Okay,
Forget about
hold
the
on.
Islamic
That's when
narrative.
the angel showed up. He didn't show up before
No,
that.
forget about the Islamic narrative. Don't bring it in. Let's focus on the Bible. In the Bible, Hagar went out with the baby, and the angel was her
In the
guide
whoa, whoa, whoa,
and
whoa, 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 whoa,
gave her a
stop,
spring
stop.
of water.
The baby was 13 years old.
That's fine. I'm not even arguing about the age. How many times should I tell you this?
Angel
The
wasn't.
Quran says it was a baby. That's
The
It's
angel
okay,
that
my
means.
dear
wasn't with
friend.
them. The
It's
angel
okay.
wasn't
That's
with
not
them
even a
until,
point of contention.
until they ran out of
Hold
water.
on. What are you saying, Swift?
The Bible is very clear that there are no angels until they run out of water, because the boy starts crying when they run out of water, and that's when God says, what's the matter? I'm going to help you out. So it's not like they're being guided. But regardless, the distance between supposedly Egypt and where Mecca is for a person and a 13-year-old to walk with whatever supplies they had on their back is, you'd have to invoke a miracle there. But since you're invoking a miracle anyway, at the end of it, with the spring being made, I'm not sure where the conflict is here. Like, yeah, a miracle happened.
Okay, and I also have something else to say about that spring. Was that the Zamzam well or the different one?
I think it's a Zamzam spring, but what does
Okay,
Swift think?
because
Swift should
in
answer that.
1500,
Let me
an
just
Italian
ascertain this.
name.
What does Swift think about it? Swift, what do you think about it? What was the spring?
In 1500, an Italian, Ludovico, he went. He pretended to be a Muslim, and he went to Egypt, and then he went to the Cairo, and he became a Mameluke, which was a soldier, and then he was able to go on a desert journey, right? And he made it all the way to Mecca, and so he actually visited that in 1500. He said that's brackish water, so they weren't drinking that water, okay? Which makes sense because it's so close to the coast that it would be brackish, okay? So that means that that miracle well wasn't drinkable. It wasn't a potable water source in 1500, and it probably wasn't
Man,
one in the
look,
time with the angel because they messed up.
no,
You
this is
think the angel
unbelievable.
made a
Look,
mistake?
Well, I don't think there was an angel. I don't think there was a Quran. I don't think there was a Muhammad. So
there was
Well,
Bible for you to work with.
This
There's
also
Bible
does
for you to
happen.
work with.
He's right. This happens in the Old Testament as well. So this is a copied story over. Like, that's like, it might, you can say this wasn't in Mecca, but since a miracle occurs in the Bible as well, there's not really a good argument to say that this couldn't have happened. You'd have to use the same argument.
no, I'm not saying it
prove
didn't
all of
happen at all.
Exodus.
If it's in the Old
You'd have to
Testament,
throw out
right?
Exodus. You'd have to throw out Genesis. You basically,
No,
if
no, no.
you deny this based on the fact that it would be physically impossible for it to happen, you basically say that all the miracles in the Old Testament are impossible. So why have any of them? Like,
No,
as
the
an
Old
atheist,
Testament-
I'm for this, but careful. You're shooting
Okay.
yourself in the foot.
No. I don't know the Old Testament that well. If the Old Testament says that an angel came over and I think there was some discrepancy, I think, between whether it was the wing or it was the foot or whatever. But
Well,
if
in
all
the
of
Old
that
Testament,
happened,
it's God directly.
oh, okay,
I
all right. Well,
think.
that makes more sense. Okay.
No, the
Because-
angel of God. No, you're
Oh, that's
right. He
right.
wasn't
Because
a-
God didn't want them to perish because, he was going to make Ishmael, have 12 princes and all of that stuff, right? He wasn't going to let them die out in the desert or wherever they were. So that makes sense.
Yeah.
What was he going to make of Ishmael?
Well, he was going to be successful, and he was going to have children and prosper, but he didn't give him the thing that says you will be the father of all nations. That whole line came, actually, that line, when, who was it? It was Jacob became Israel, and he was given, because there was a whole thing about Esau and Jacob and all of that, right? And the birthright, and then Jacob, he got the birthright, and he also got the angel talked to him about he's going to be the forefather of all of those nations of Israel, right? And his name was going to be called Israel now. Now you're saying that you got to go up one lineage and across, and then down to Ishmael to see that there was a separate line that was going to be the people of Israel or the
Let
promised
me help you
nations.
out. Let me help you out. Let me help you out from the trouble of all these Orientalist Christian apologists who are very keen on polemicizing Islam. Let me help you out solve this riddle, Dennis. Which people group in that region from north to south claimed to be Ishmaelites? Which people group? Ammonites, Edomites, Moabites, Amalekites.
Edomite, yeah.
Which people group claimed they were the descendants of Ishmael and as such Ishmaelites? Which people group is all I'm asking. Which people group?
I think that they were Edomites and stuff like that in that V,
Did they
whatever
claim
it
to be
was.
descendants of Ishmael? You are freaking cold at this point in time. You don't know the Old Testament.
What does that have to do with Israel being the chosen nation?
That is a different issue. We are now right now trying to
I'm not saying
locate
Ishmael
Ishmael.
didn't have kids and that they
No,
weren't
no, no.
prosperous.
Hang
They were
on.
princes.
Pay
They weren't
attention. Pay
kings.
attention. Pay attention. We are not talking about the chosen nation. All we are trying to figure out is a place for Ishmael and his descendants. That's all we are doing. Figuring out a place. That's all we are doing.
Okay. What I want you to
So
do
I'm
is what they
asking
call,
which people group claimed to be Ishmaelites? Simple question.
I would say that if you look at the V between the Gulf of Suez and the Gulf of Aqaba,
You're not
out into
answering my
North and
question, my dear
South
friend.
Sinai.
You're not answering my question.
All right. How about the people group that wasn't Israelites?
That's a
Huh?
lot of them.
I'm asking you a very simple question. Pay
Okay.
attention.
All right.
Which people group in the region from north to south claimed to be Ishmaelites? Very simple question.
Well, answer it. I don't
No,
think I
you
care
go
about
ahead
the
and
question.
answer that for me, please.
No, you're treating me like an expert. I have some theories. I'm not an
Then
expert. You
your
got to
theories
talk to
are
scholars
irrelevant,
to get those
man.
kind of
They're a
answers.
waste of time, Dennis. To be honest
No,
with you,
no,
your
no, no,
theories are
no.
a waste of
I'm a
time.
logical
You
person.
listen to all these people, like stupid people like Jay and whatnot, and their minds have been uh, annihilated of their hate because they hate Islam so much. Their neurons have deteriorated, man. To be honest with you, and you listen to these people, they want to come and argue with me. Bring them. Well, all I'm saying is bring them. Invite this guy Gabriel Said Reynolds to come and debate with me. Why won't he debate? Why won't he debate? Why won't some other people who are talking about these theories come and debate?
You can just tell them it's the Arabs, man. You know,
Yeah, I
There
mean,
is
you got
only one
Saracens
people
because
group.
they
Just
hated
one
that
people
Sarah.
group claimed to be Ishmaelites. Just one people group. And there were people in Arabia. That's all. The Arabs claimed they were Ishmaelites. People in Mecca claimed they were Ishmaelites. Nobody contested it. Nobody said, come on, you are not Ishmaelites. We are Ishmaelites. This argument never happened in history. Never happens. And people in Makkah who claim to be Ishmaelites, and you're gonna telling me that Makkah was created by the Caliphs? Ludicrous, man. It's a waste of time. This argument is a waste of time.
Okay, well, all right. If I mean, I don't really care where all of the caliphs and all of that came from and all of that, right? Now, I do care about what was some of the timing of things that happened back in the day. Why did all of this upheaval occur? What allowed it to occur? Okay. Now,
collapse of
things
the
that I
Roman
never
Empire.
do. What?
It's the collapse of the Roman Empire.
But what really caused it? You'll
The
be
bubonic
surprised.
plague.
Yes, bubonic plague in 542.
Yeah.
Okay, that was only
Common
30 years
knowledge.
before Muhammad was born, right?
Huh?
And the other thing that happened was in 536, you started having crop failures from Ireland to China with abnormal cold and reduced sunlight due to volcanic eruptions and also meteorites. Okay,
You-
so in my paradigm, Satan is the prince of the earth. He has power on the earth because he's been allowed to have power, and he can make things happen. And these were the two ingredients that made everything really happen. Now, you've got a lot of people on boats, and there's rats on the ships that have fleas, and the fleas give the bubonic plague. So now you got all of these empires going out with armies and stuff, and they're being decimated because they're on ships and going for months at a time and just getting the bubonic plague and dying. So they're losing all their good people, all their generals, all the good people. And then you got people in the interior of the desert called Arabs, and they're not on those ships. So they're not, very, very hardy people as well. So they're not, it's like COVID, all the sick people, they died off, but the people who are strong, they lived. So now you got them, they were resistant to the bubonic plague. So however they oriented and got organized, right? Now, if I read some of the documentation, they were saying, oh, Medina is the central place where the global Arab army was being manipulated, and that they were pulling people from all sorts of areas like Damascus and Turkey and everywhere, right? To Sinai, Egypt, and they were, going into big giant global wars. Okay. And then when I look at how harsh the travel was, and that you couldn't travel for 9 months out of the year to go from Medina just up to Petra, right? Or somewhere where they got animals and food and water and stuff like that. And I'm thinking, well, how many communiques could they have had to control these global armies? And they said even it was like a warehouse for all of their stuff, so you could go get supplies there. And I'm thinking, that's the dumbest thing I ever heard. What kind of historians are putting this garbage out to the world? It's all fake. You're right. Mecca was a fake idea. Medina was a fake idea. All of that. Somehow the Arabs got together through some control, and I think it was through powerful families who were controlling the northwest of the area, northwest of Jerusalem and the Israel and all that, where there was lush vegetation and lots of learning, and people were relaxed enough to be able to go to school and learn things and become somebody. And those people had logic, they had resources, they could go out and make some decisions and have all of that stuff coming in and affecting these global armies, right? And pushing them back. I don't see how Mecca could have done it back in the day.
Armies.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you.
What are you agreeing with?
Whatever nonsense you were just trying to convince me with.
Logic. All right. You got two other guys on here. Did anything I say was technically wrong?
Well, you invoke Satan, so nothing you say can be technically right, since you're basically invoking magic. I'm sorry, if Satan is the thing
Shaitan
that-
exists. Okay, that's
fine. You can say that, but then you can't invoke logic because you're using magic. You're saying someone
Okay.
magic didn't
Erase that part of my statement because
Uh-huh.
I'm just a regular guy. Erase that part. What else?
And you're somehow amazed that a group of people can take advantage of a weakened Roman Empire. And to be fair to Muhammad, he wasn't.
No, I never said I was amazed that they took advantage. I gave the reasons of why they were able to, but I don't think that they did it from Medina is all I'm saying. I don't think they did it from Mecca. I don't think those were the centers of Arab global power. I don't think so. I think it was where all of the good land
They had
is.
a center of power when they were first coming up. I'm pretty sure didn't Muhammad try to go into Jerusalem and get them to side with him at first before he had to go back and regroup in the Saudi Arabia and all that stuff? I don't know.
Muhammad died in 632.
What would the alternative be then? I'm just curious. If it's not Arabia, where would have it been?
Yeah, where does he get his Arab army? If not in Saudi Arabia, in the area where Arabs are. He obviously got an army from somewhere. They weren't Russians, they weren't Mongols, they weren't the Gauls, they were Arabs.
Hold on, I thought that there were lots of Arabs. Okay, what I just said was Jordan, Syria, Lebanon, Turkey, Iraq.
You're talking about Roman territories right now. So you're saying he raised an army in Roman territory to fight
So
Rome.
you're saying that there weren't powerful Arab families over there?
I doubt most of the area that was Greek up until the Arabs conquered it, and then that's why the Arabs are in all those areas now because the Arabs conquered it, not because they were there all the time. They were fighting back. The Persians were there for a while. They were fighting the Greeks. That's why all the dynasties in Egypt were Greek until the Arabs took over. Like that, Alexander the Great conquered the entire region for a long time. Like it's not like there were just like tons of Arabs living in. I'm sure there were Semitic people like the Jews that were in Israel and all that stuff. There were the locals, but it wasn't just the entirety of the current Arab world wasn't filled with Arabs.
Okay, so
What?
a couple of hundred years after the Quran, you had all of these scholars of your world, right? Bukhari, Al-Tabari, all those guys. You know where they lived, right? In all the places I just told you about.
Sure.
None of them lived in Saudi Arabia in the desert.
You think those were like? You think that if they were in Turkey, they would have been in the Byzantine Empire.
Well, maybe Turkey's
Istanbul
too far
falls.
up, right?
Istanbul falls. Well, Turkey's one of the most popular areas you're talking about. Maybe you can say Jordan. There were probably Arabs in Jordan, which has some good farmland. So yeah, maybe, sure. Like, but that's right next to Saudi Arabia. I don't know. Like, yeah, the problem is like Syria, Turkey. Those areas out of the north would have been owned by Greeks and then Romans for hundreds of years at that point. I don't know. Like, and then Egypt's the Egyptians. They wouldn't be Arabs. Like, you got what? They got the Persians over in Iran. The Arabs would have Iraq, Saudi Arabia. You could probably say Jordan, maybe that like slice of Syria, maybe. I don't know.
Okay,
I'm not sure where the like groups were at that point, but you're talking about the people groups as if they're the modern people groups, and they're not.
Okay, but here's another factor in my theories. Okay, now one of the things that Odin LaFontaine talked about was how there were Judeo-Nazarenes all over the region, right? And they were the ones that partnered with all of the Arabs that they could find. Okay, and they were the ones that went in and they were Christians who were also Jews, but they only believed in one God. They didn't believe in the Trinity. So that was where all of those ideas came from. There was a whole lot of stuff that Muslims believed that the Judeo-Nazarenes believed. And so they partnered together, and that's how Jerusalem was captured in 637. Now, when you look at the crop failures, when you look at the volcanic eruptions, the meteorites, the bubonic plague, that put fear into the hearts of everyone in that world. So they were all looking they were scared. They were scared of living. They were scared of dying. They thought that the end times were coming, right? Because this was, 550 years after Jesus died. So
yeah, that's the same argument Jesus made. You're just stating the same reason Jesus was popular. Yes, this happens. It happened with Jesus. He was preaching about the end times. The Jews had just lost the war with the Romans. They were all very, very sore about it. They had a bunch of rebellions there. It's the same thing.
So I think that all of this was the crescendo of why people would just jump on the bandwagon. Okay, so Muhammad died in 632 and Jerusalem was captured in 637, right? And then the Rashidun Caliphate was 638. That means that I would say that whoever the Rashiduns were, which area were they from?
Which people?
Well, the Rashiduns. Where were they from? They were from Mecca?
I'm just confused on what this has to do with like a Christian arguing against Islam. very confused on what.
No, you said that there weren't. Okay, so the Levantine front prior to the Battle of Yarmouk in 636, there were 7,000 troops from Palestine, 7,000 from Jordan, 7,000 from Damascus, and 8,000 from northern Syria. Okay, and then you had Yarmouk was a concentrated field army of 25,000 men. Okay, those were all the areas I just told you the Arabs were coming in from. Would you say that Arabs were involved in the Battle of Yarmouk?
Sounds like they were.
All right. Well, then I'm saying that those are all the same armies. If that was 636, they were the ones that walked into Jerusalem and took over.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, there's a Rashidun empire, right? And this was all Rashidun troops. Okay. So the things I'm saying probably make sense.
Well, the confusing part is why you're saying them. Like, a history lesson's fun and all, but yeah, Muhammad raised an army, he conquered a lot of land, he was very successful. Historical fact.
All right, I looked at the historical fact, okay, and I looked at all of the battles that he did, and they were all in the interior of maybe Tabuk or whatever that one was the highest one in the area. That dude was a local warlord. He was not a global emperor like everybody puts him out to be. But this Rashidun dude with all of those armies.
Wait. Do Muslims claim he conquered the world? I don't think they do.
No. I actually have a question. So I saw the debate between Jay Smith versus Raymond Ibrahim. Jay Smith put the argument forth that basically the entire Islamic narrative is like a mythology. Like this whole thing about Mecca is it's like a fairy tale. So Raymond Ibrahim rebutted and said, okay, I hear you. You're doing Christian apologetics. However, if you do that and you open that door to skepticism, does that then lead to using skepticism against Christianity, against Judaism? Would you then have to use that same instrumentation in this space? And I think that is where the big problem rises. So we could take the position you're taking of skepticism and saying, yeah, none of this stuff is true. But then how do we know anything in history is true? Because we didn't have the kind of carbon footprint we have now. You didn't have like social media accounts and, all these kinds of digitized records. A lot of things were a lot more murkier and dubious. So the way we view history is we look into what is plausible, what we think appears happened based on the kind of limited information that we have. So if we grant your position and say, okay, this stuff really, it's all murky and skeptical, and we should be skeptical of it, what happens if we then utilize that same framework to anything in history?
Okay, right now, what my focus is saying that the desert in Saudi Arabia, that is the bottleneck for any kind of influence that could have come out of that region at all. Okay, whenever Muhammad made that trek up to Tabuk, right? That's the northernmost part of where he went to war with people, right? When he did that, it was based on, we heard that something was going to happen in the Byzantine, or whatever, and all of that, right? He went over there, and his troops were so wiped out from that journey that they had to stay there for 20 days and recuperate, and then they came back to Medina because that's a tough, even going from Tabuk up to Israel is very tough, right? It's still hyper arid desert. And then you're talking about an army that's just been depleted. You're talking about animals dying because they can't get enough to graze. You can't get enough water on any of those journeys, especially if you were to tell me that you could be a global emperor with only 9 months out of the year to where you could actually maneuver your troops through the Saudi Arabian desert, right?
Where's
You
this
only
global
have
emperor thing coming from? What are you talking about? Like, why do you keep on tilting against that?
okay.
He's a
The way I
prophet.
see it,
I don't.
you got a
Once again,
prophet, right?
yeah,
And he had control over lots of other Arabs who wanted control.
he had control of a lot of people. Yeah, he was a pretty successful warlord in the area. Yeah.
What would convince those other Arabs to give in to some guy in Saudi Arabia?
Someone who's very charismatic. You obviously
So
have something that compelled them. I mean, you have the Quran. Obviously, there's someone that was with him, or he himself was a good storyteller. Say what you will about it, the Quran's a pretty well put together book. So, like,
why would the Quran contradict the Bible, the Old Testament, New Testament so much? Like 900 something times it contradicts things in the story of Joseph alone.
well, I'm pretty sure the Muslim explanation of that is the Old Testament and New Testament are corrupt. Yes.
But why would God have corrupted scriptures? Or why would God refer to corrupted scriptures?
I believe you invoked Satan earlier. I wouldn't think that God would be the one doing that. I'd have to. I don't know. Muslims here. I think the old story is that those are corrupted texts. But correct me.
Oh no, that's absolute. They don't have a way out of corrupted text or conscious editing. They don't have a way out of that because if they say that there's any credence to the books that were written in the Old Testament or the New Testament, then they're wiped out, right? Because that means that the Quran was invented 600 years after Jesus died.
Yeah, but I think that's their point, is the older texts are corrupted, so a new text was needed. I think that's why the whole Prophet Muhammad thing happened. And how is that unclear?
Because when Jesus came, he says he confirmed the Old Testament.
And you know that from
the New
Testament, which they say is corrupted. So pointless. Absolutely pointless to say that. If you're quoting from books that they say are corrupted, you get nowhere. You gotta. That's like quoting the Bible to me. It means nothing. Like, it's like, yeah.
Okay, but right now, you heard my story about a woman and her child or teen walking down to Mecca.
I did. And
alone.
Did you hear the point that if you hold Muslims to that, you have to ditch Exodus, you have to ditch everything that you have in the Bible, because you're basically saying they can't have miracles, but you can. And but
the miracles, like the manna, that was explained. Oh, the reason that they made it 40 years wandering in the desert because the manna and the quails and all of that, right?
Sure.
It was explained, but there's a lot left out of the depictions in the Quran, so it's just like it's a partial book. It's a book that depends on other books to get the real story and the full story, right? So, if you look at one of the things that Odon says is that these Judeo-Nazarenes, they were going out and they were the ones that would bring in the Arabs and would teach them about their ways and try to convert them over into Judeo-Nazarenes themselves, right? And that was the consolidating factor for the brotherhood of everything that happened before. And the whole reason was that they wanted to go into Jerusalem and conquer it because the temple had been destroyed in 70 AD. And they wanted to go in and build the temple. And they wanted to sacrifice so that the end times could come.
Nothing.
No. They wanted to sacrifice so that the end times could come, so that they could go to heaven.
Okay,
and cool. And they did that. They sacrificed, and nothing happened. And they ended up getting killed by the Rashiduns in 640. They killed them all, right? And then that was when you were left with just the Arabs at that point, right? So at that point, it was then they destroyed all of their literature. So basically, there were lectionaries left over from when they were teaching the Arabs because they had to translate to a different language and all, right? So that's why you have so many occurrences of say this in the Quran, was because those are lectionaries, and they were teaching aids for the brand new pastors that were Arabic, so that they can teach them about the Jewish traditions and things like that. And so that's why it says say this and say that, because it was, and then whenever the caliphates and all, they organized and wanted to have their own book. They went ahead and they borrowed from Zoroastrianism, they borrowed from the Talmud, they borrowed from Christianity, they put their book together, and somehow the Jews had told them fake stories. And even in the Quran, they talk about how they corrupt things with their tongues and stuff, because the Jews knew what was in the Talmud or in the Bible, the Old Testament, but they told them different stories, like the Joseph story. They had a little. That way, when I think they wanted to tell who was a true Jew and who was an Arab Jew, they could tell by just asking them a couple of questions, right? And they said, whoa, we know from our birth that this was the story of Joseph, or that it wasn't Pharaoh's mother or wife that took in Moses. It was Pharaoh's daughter, little descriptions like that. So they had it off colored so that they can distinguish between different people.
There were different religions, yeah, okay. They wouldn't want the Jews didn't like converting people generally. They like to stay their own people group. It's gotten them into trouble a few times.
Well, these are Christian Jews, so they were different from the Jews.
You can't call them Christians if they're actually monotheists and not polytheists. But sure. I mean, that's a whole.
Well, I mean, you had the Nazarenes, which was like the historian.
Did someone like, let's say, Apostle Paul, view himself as something separate from being Jewish? Did he say, I'm a different religion? He could say he's a follower of Christ, because I keep hearing you say Christian and Jew. I think this term Christian, this demarcation of a term, comes later on. These people viewed themselves as Jews. I don't think there was any separation. They all prayed in the synagogue. And also Jews were polylythic. They were polylythic. So Sadducees did not operate like Pharisees. They were both Jews, but one was the high priest lineage. They didn't believe in an afterlife. They believed that they were like the pure lineage of priests. And then you had the Pharisees that believed in rabbinic rule. So it's like, I think I think that people who followed Christ would fit in as another demarcation among these different kinds of groups.
Yeah. Like, certainly, Jesus himself didn't consider himself a new religion. He very much was a Jew. So, I mean, I don't think you get really the differentiation until far later.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a much later. And then you have to realize European colonialist powers, they capitalize this, and I think they use the term Christianity to justify their imperialism, So I don't know.
Christianity was a thing way before Europe got out of the Dark Ages.
No, I totally agree. What I'm saying is, when these European bodies said we are Christian, I don't even think they really even knew what it was. They're just like, oh, we're wearing crosses. Like, I don't think they actually had a deep knowledge of this stuff. It was more like they used Christ to push their agendas,
Well, yeah, but that's all religions. Not many people who follow religion are aware of the theology of the religion.
I hear you, but think about this. Jesus is like a pacifist. He is, and I would say in a lot of ways would fit as a socialist. Like, he's a person who said, if you desire a cloak, give it away. He does not fit European imperialistic industry. They just aren't aligned. They're completely diametrically opposed. Do you get what I'm trying to say? He does not promote making money, getting power. He in fact refutes it over and over again. So it's strange that these feudal empires are like, you know what? We have to check and see about royal bloodlines, and we have to keep our European lineages. And I'm like, you just are basically stealing this tradition and giving yourself validity from this tradition to do your empire. Do you get what I mean? It's a little bit different than other traditions. Like, it's the same thing with Buddhism. I think Buddhism functions the same way, where you see Buddhist imperialistic powers, and I'm like, yes, Siddhartha Gautama didn't teach this. You are just using him as
but you're just that's imperialism uses whatever culture it's in.
legitimacy.
Like that's just kind of fluff. No matter what, every country wants to be imperialist, and every country has a culture of some kind. So it will use things in the culture to convince its people to go grab things. It's like common.
Daniel's already made the point that we never should have had the Crusades because that goes against what Jesus taught. But you know what? The Pope, he didn't care. He just did his thing. You know, he went ahead and sanctioned all that.
That's the position that I would say. I don't think he was following Jesus.
No, he wasn't.
Jesus' teaching is diametrically opposed to that, and that's the point that I'm saying. Like, you can take the teacher's teaching, but if your teaching does not actually coincide with that, you're just stealing the validity of this teacher to promote your agenda. The teacher actually is not aligned with that. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the problem that I would have. And like, I heard this, people are like, well, the Crusades were justified because they were fighting against Muslims. And I'm like, well, it's not Christian. It's not justified by Christianity. It's justified by people who want power and they want land, which is opposite to what the gospel teaches. So, you know, that's the point that I'm making. I hear what you're saying. Like, I get the point where you're like, yes, people will use whatever religious industry is around them to gain power.
Culture. Every culture on the earth wants to spread. We call that imperialism because we're modern day idiots. Modern day idiots like to use stupid words like imperialism. But every culture on the planet wants to spread itself. That's literally the point of culture, is to make more people around you like you. And generally that leads to war. I guess that's how that be.
I think it depends.
And the Muslims took over. I guess they sacked 30,000 churches. They took all of the documents in the library at Alexandria.
Yeah, the Christians fooled the Byzantines into opening the doors of frickin' Constantinople and burned that city to the ground. Everybody does fun stuff in war. It's not.
Yeah. But I guess the whole response for the retaliation with the Crusades was because they lost 2/3, according to Raymond Abraham, they lost 2/3 of all of their land to the Muslims fighting them and taking over, right? By sword.
Vlad gets them back in what, 1400s? Look,
something like that.
There's been a lot of fighting. Yeah. It's just, but none of that has anything to do with whether like the Quran or like I just don't understand why any of this historical stuff means anything about, you know, whether Muslims are correct about their history.
My big point is, how could Mecca or Medina, being in the middle of nowhere with so many days to traverse to get to anywhere where civilization exists?
Actually, check this out. Go scroll forward on over in Mecca. There's a little place south of it called Chicken Farm. That's actually quite beautiful. They have a lot of nice green glass. They got a plant nursery with a bunch of trees.
Like you can say that this is modern day creation. That's fine.
Maybe.
But Dennis, do you see in the picture here on the map? You see there's this inverted sea, like desert surrounding. From here the desert. You can see the dunes, right? Sand dunes.
Yeah.
Right. All of this area, and the interior of that is where you have habitations. All right, that was cut off from Sassanians towards the east and was cut off from the Romans from the north. All right, so this interior region surrounded by this desert land, desertscape, is where these people are situated, and they were not Sassanians and they were not Romans. So somebody jolted both Sassanians and Romans at the same time. And where did they come from? They had to come from at least Yemen. People existed in Yemen, right? So if they were not Arabian people, at least they were Yemenites. But Yemenites never made that claim. They never said we conquered Sassanians and we conquered Romans. They never made that claim. Yemenis. So did God send his armies as he is the God of the hosts? So did he send his armies from heaven and they came down and they defeated Sassanians and the Romans? Is that what you're trying to make up?
No, I'm saying history says that the Rashidun Empire did that. And I just
Where did
told
they
you
come
where
from? Did they come from heaven, or did they come from Arabia? Where did they come from?
I just told you where all their armies came from, and it was all the places I had
It
mentioned
was
prior.
not from Jordan, my dear friend. It was not from Palestine, Jordan. It was not from those areas.
Well, then
Those
you need to go
areas were
back and rewrite your
already
sources.
Roman territories.
Yeah, but I got that from your sources, from historical sources.
Those areas that you mentioned were already Roman territories. Even Jordan was a Roman territory because they had just taken that from the Sassanians in the lead up
Okay,
before
but
the Islamic conquest of
all
those
right.
lands.
Remember when I said that they were Judeo-Nazarenes and they were bringing Arabs in so that they could go and take over Jerusalem, so that
Now,
they can
look,
make the sacrifice?
even if I were to agree with the theory that there were these Judeo-Nazarenes who wrote up the Quran, isn't that a
No,
wonderful
I'm not saying
document?
that they wrote up the
Even if that
Quran.
was a heresy, look, hang on. Even if that was a Judeo-Nazarene heresy, isn't that a wonderful document, internally consistent, unlike the Bible, which is internally inconsistent? Shouldn't you then take up this heresy religion, which might have been the truth? All other heresies of the Judeo Christians would have been forgeries. This particular um, group that you're talking about, Judeo Nazarenes, they might well have had truth with them, and finally they put it into the Quran. Isn't something that you have to embrace? Because this um, puritanical group, the only puritanical group in that tradition, finally puts a beautiful document together, which is the Quran, and it's compelling. What do you think about that? Why don't you embrace that?
Whenever the document, the Quran, talks about pomegranates and olive trees and dates and
Because
palm
there were
trees.
trades. People would trade fruits, and desert people who were in the desert, they would give their camels off and they would buy fruits because they would not have fruits otherwise. So you have to see, at this point you're getting stubborn, right? You're
Well,
being
no,
like
no.
this
They also
child with
said there were seas
tantrums.
and there were boats and stuff like that. There's none of that near Mecca.
Jeddah is not far away from Makkah, mind
Mecca's
you.
right next to the coast. Like
I
it's,
think these were called
what is that,
freshwater
like-
seas, not saltwater seas.
like 100 kilometers.
Oh no, probably 60.
Yeah, it's
Where
I'll
in
have
the
to go
world?
back and research, and
really
I'll have to
slow.
see
Where
if
in
it was
the,
freshwater, because a sea is not. Um,
good. You're thinking now. You're
no, a
thinking.
sea is inland. It's inland. Anyway, I'll go back and I'll look at the Quran's references, and I will say if they saw lush vegetation, okay, because that is not the case in Mecca. You could say
The
that you
thing
got
is,
all the stuff from Cairo and they came down to the Red Sea. They created Jeddah, and then they went inland and they went to Mecca. You could
the
say
thing
that,
is, Dennis.
but I
Dennis,
think
the
that
thing
the
is this.
Quran says more than that.
No, the thing is this, Dennis. You don't have mountainous peaks where you have a build of ice caps and the fresh water flows from there. Anywhere in the territory, even if you were to put out a theory, oh, maybe Muhammad lived in Bahrain, even there, you don't have these freshwater flowing rivers. Those happen in Andes or Himalayas and places like that. That's where those freshwater rivers flow out. But what you're trying to do is this: you're trying to posit God in the Quran had no right whatsoever to mention natural facts. That is what you're positing. You're telling me if there is this natural fact mentioned in the Quran, Quran also talks about mountains having tracks of different colors, and those mountains are found in China. So you got to tell me, oh, Muhammad actually lived in China now. What you're missing is this. The fact that you're missing is, if God is giving you this dictation, he is free to narrate natural wonders. And that does not really mean that that people group had to live in that part of the world.
No, there's two different kinds. One is to generic people and one is to Mecca. So I'm going to go and get the distinctions and I'll bring those next time. Okay, and that will
Cool.
narrow down. Now, if I were able to go into the Quran and see things about fruits and vegetables in Mecca, which I don't believe could have existed, what would you say to that?
Sorry, what did you say?
If I were to go out and look in the Quran and read it and find references to fruits and vegetables in Mecca, and in lush vegetation, fresh water, things like that, would you have to rethink things? What would that do to your opinion?
See, look, you're missing the point. Right now, where I live, for example, where I live right now, if you look at the maps, the map will tell you Torrance River, okay, and Murray River or whatever it is, all right. But now, when I lived in India, for example, I had a perception of what a river looked like. And believe me, if you go to India, you will have this very good idea of what a river is. It's a massive flow of water, massive. But out here, where I live right now in Australia, you see these maps and it says Torrance River, and I go there, bloody, it's a dirty pool of water. It doesn't even move. And they call it a river. I was like, why the hell you call this dirty, stagnant pool of water a river? But then I learned when there is a heavy downpour, it actually flows for a few days. And that's what they call the river, right? Because the water at some point in time actually took a float. It was streaming down. So in Makkah, there are all these valleys and there's cliffs, there's mountains. And when it would rain, all that rain that would collect on these mountaintops and the hills would find a channel to flow down. And that window of time in that season would give rise to vegetation and stuff like that, which is a very normal occurring. Even deserts turn out to be green in the brief time period when it rains heavy. I mean, you should know this. You should know this. This is just nature. Maybe you have to sit down and watch some documentaries on National Geographic Channel to see how
I've seen the
African
documentaries that
landscape.
said that I've seen the documentaries that said that it flash floods in Mecca and that the Kaaba was destroyed 5 different times and had to be rebuilt from scratch. I saw those.
Okay, so what's the concern? They would collect water in cisterns. They would have aqueducts built, and they would have ways to store water, and especially when they had a Zamzam well, which still operates. Okay, I had been to. I mean, when pilgrims go to Makkah, they drink from that well even today. And the thing is, when there was a water table for Zamzam well, that water table could well be exploited by others in that region to dig more wells. So I don't think there was any period of time where people in Makkah were running out of water. That situation
Okay,
never existed.
well, all right. So what Odon highlights in his presentation is that they could only get 20 liters of water a day because they didn't have any mechanical way of getting the
You
water
want to
out.
believe all these dribbles, these rantings by these Christian polemicists. I mean, look, if you want to rely on them, you are permanently disabled from thinking rationally. Okay?
Actually, it looks like the Quran specifically says that it was getting its like sustenance through divine blessing and prayers. Where does it say that the fruits and stuff were naturally growing? Like I feel dumb that they're not starting with
1611 is one of them.
1611.
Yeah, let's go to that and see what the context is.
Book, Quran, 1611. Oh, goodness.
I mean, I could say the verse, but I don't know what the context is, so I wouldn't trust the verse.
11 in the bees.
That is a very generic statement. As I said,
Whoa. This is interesting. So the verse was with which he makes crops grow and olives and dates and grapes and even fruits of every kind for you. Okay, so this is in the context of the decree of God will surely come. So do not try to hasten it. He created horses. Wait. Oh my God. This isn't talking about Mecca. This is just talking about God in general.
Yeah.
Man he created from a drop of semen, and still he becomes an open contender. And this all leads into the verse of with which it is he who sends down water from the sky, of which you drink, and which nourishes the plants you feed your cattle, with which he makes crops grow, and olives, dates, and grapes, and fruits of every kind for you. So if this is the verse you're using, it's not talking about Mecca.
Well, this is just an AI. It gave also 640. It's 6:141. Try it out.
6:141.
Yeah. Because
I'm not comfortable as an atheist defending Islam right now, but this is just bad.
Well, you might be more comfortable.
You're the garden and trestled the borrowed and palm trees and land sown with corn and many other needs and olives and pomegranate and the like and yet unlike. So eat of the fruit when they are fruit. What is this talking about? They will sure apparently kill their offspring. So eat of the fruit and his due and do not be extravagant, for God does not love those who are prodigal. Once again, this isn't talking about a region. This is talking about the fact that God does all this.
Okay, the last one.
The burden and the cattle for slaughter. Yeah, this is just God's powers and the fact that God gives you everything.
The last one it gave was 13:4.
I feel like I should have done this at the beginning. Oh, on the earth and trucks adjoining one another, and vineyards, fields of corn, and date palm trees, some forked, some with single trunks, yet all irrigated by the selfsame water. Though we make... God, I would need to read this more poetically. Okay, so it is God who raised the skies without support, as you can see. Then he assumed his throne and enthralled the sun and the moon. He disposes all affairs. It is he who stretched the earth and placed it upon the stabilizers and rivers. Made two pair on the earth. Once again, this is talking about God is the one who makes everything nice. So none of this is about Mecca.
Well, that's what it gave me.
Yeah, because you started this argument based on a presupposition that you didn't verify. You looked up a bunch of data that means nothing because the Quran never talks about Mecca like that. The Quran barely apparently mentions Mecca at all. It's an important place in a couple of places, but it doesn't talk about it like it's some paradise.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm gonna need to do some blasphemy someplace to make up for this. By the way, I feel very, very dirty right now. Bust out my Quran.
Dennis, you managed to nearly convert an atheist into an Islamic guy.
Don't say that, man.
You can't even get me to theism. Don't even try that.
He's got to do more blaspheme.
God isn't real. There are no gods. Yeah, there you go. It feels better. Oh.
Yeah. Intelligent designer. Oh, sorry. I gave you some more repentance to do.
No, design arguments are terrible. Fine tuning maybe, but design arguments are just bad.
Hey,
okay, so everybody's okay with how much water there is in the desert. Now, Daniel, you were saying about you could see how the desert is in there, and you're saying that on the interior of that, from there to the sea, everything looks good. And
no, I'm not saying it looks good. I'm saying
no, that there's grazing land, and you could support animals and all of that from the desert all the way to the sea, right? The Red Sea.
Yeah,
now, what I will tell you is that when I looked at this, it said that there were 5 different, the Paleolithic time was the desert, I think, and then there was some other ones back in the shaping of the earth, right? And basically, instead of seeing grass and all of that, what you're actually seeing in the gray parts is mountains. Okay, it's very rocky. It's like I don't know. I have a map here that shows what the levels are, and it's a topographic map, right? So if you could pull up one of those, you could see that it's very rocky area, and Mecca is quite a bit higher than Jeddah is, so it's not that easy to tote goods back and forth back in the day.
The camels
But
the camels would do the job.
right. So I guess Mecca was it's probably not too bad. Probably 300-400 meters. So
Over a slope of 100 kilometers. Over the slope, you got to account for the slope. Or if it is 300 meters high and the length is 100 kilometers, then you calculate the slope, and it's not bad for camels, right?
but
Swift,
there's
I
some
just want to ask you. I just want to ask Swift. Have you seen a video on my channel? It's called Islamic Philosophy.
No.
I'm taking a shot on Alex O'Connor and Sam Harris. So the video is called.
Oh, no, I did see that. That's why I'm here. You invited me here.
It's like what led to the success of Islam, Islamic philosophy. I keep changing the titles for YouTube algorithm, but I'll give you a link here. I would want you to watch this video and then watch a few more videos on Alex O'Connor. So I'm taking a shot at him. Just want to go
Shot at
on
what?
him.
Pretty much.
Yeah, I think both of those guys, Alex O'Connor and Sam Harris, the mad people, basically.
Sam Harris gets a little wacky. You had some problem with causality, apparently, in the video I saw. You were denying the fact that effects all are determined by their causes.
Well, I didn't really agree with them postulating absolute determinism. Like people don't have inherent ability to make a free choice. It's all of our choices are predetermined. So that's what I was trying to.
What do you consider a free choice?
What do I consider a free choice?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think whatever I'm doing definitely is guided by the amount of knowledge I have on a subject matter. For example, like this. I mean, I would give you an example like this. While playing chess, right?
Mm-hmm.
It really depends on how much you know the game and how much you've learned the tactics to be able to make a better move. The less you know, the more deterministic the system becomes. Because the less you know, the less free you are. So that's where Jesus says, seek the truth, and the truth shall set you free. Okay? So what he really meant was this.
In that example,
knowledge,
the exact
pursuit
opposite.
of knowledge will bring you freedom.
If you know chess, the more you know chess, the less freedom there is in chess. Because if you know all the moves, you'll know the best move. That's why computers are so good at it. So you should use different examples if you're going to try that one. Regardless,
the more you know,
how much you know, is any decision you make not based on not caused. Can you make uncaused decisions?
I mean, human beings are systems that consider an input and then we determine an outcome, right? We make decisions based on our sensory organs. We have an input through our sense organs and we resolve a solution for it. Now, this resolution, it can be very deterministic when you're draining on knowledge, but when you acquire knowledge, which is only possible if you had freedom, you could not acquire knowledge if we were not free.
You can't just make statements like that. Yes, you can acquire knowledge if you're not free. Knowledge is a justified true belief. What about that? What about freedom is needed there?
So if do you understand is a system that is constrained has a specific behavior? Okay, so once you constrain a system, you have what is called as harmonics, natural modes of how the system would behave. But if you release constraints of a system, the system is operationally free, so it can throw out a lot more harmonics than if it were constrained. Okay, so what I'm saying is this: basically, essentially, what I'm saying is, we would not be innovative if we were constrained. If we did not have free will, we would not be innovative.
You're
The
just
mere fact
assuming
that
that.
humans,
You haven't said anything that leads to that.
no, I mean, if you have studied mechanical systems, you would know this. If you constrained a mechanical system, you can have
and you are positing the fact that there can be systems without constraints. That's literally impossible. So you're just making things up. There can never be a system without constraints. Otherwise, it's not a system. All systems are defined by their constraints.
So what are our? I mean, in our system, for a human being, what do you think are the constraints?
We have all kinds of constraints. We have biological constraints. We have mental constraints. We have formal constraints. We're constrained by the rules of existence. We're constrained by our chemistry. We're constrained by the way we're born. We're constrained by the oxygen in the air. We have tons of constraints.
Okay,
there's
there is one space where I would disagree. I would agree with you. We have biological, anatomical, chemistry, and all of that. I would agree, no problems. But the mental space we have, the faculty, the neuronal integration that we have in our brains, that you can say is constrained by space. But I don't think you would be justified to say that system is absolutely constrained.
Really? Can you picture a square circle in your mind right now? Do it.
Okay, I would like to jump in and say, when you talk about square circle, you're talking about abstract thought. Now, there was
we're talking about thoughts, so it's all abstract. It's the mind. It's not material.
No. There's two kinds of things going on, right? When you look at somebody with an epilepsy, so there was a neurologist who did like a million. He would go inside of people's brains and he would, cut out parts of it, or he would touch certain electrodes and stuff like that while they were awake mostly. And he would see and he would try to map the whole mind. You could go and Google this. And basically he said that there's some physical responses for certain things, but when someone has an epileptic attack, their limbs might go crazy or something like that. But what they'll never do is like talking math problems or do things like that. That would be abstract thought. So there's a difference between the mind and the brain, is all he was saying. You should just go look it up. I guess I could probably try to bring it.
I just agreed with that. That's what I'm saying. Can your mind picture a square circle?
I mean, why should it picture a falsity?
You just said it doesn't have constraints, and now you're saying it has a constraint.
The thing is this. I mean, look, hang on. The mind is free.
No, it's not. You just put a constraint on it. It can't picture.
The mind is free to determine outcomes, and it already knows a circle is a circle and a square is a square.
So it's not free. You just admitted it. You just said there's a constraint.
No. I mean, look, what the mind is giving you is a result.
Yes, it takes.
Okay, it's giving you a result. It's giving you.
Output is determined by the input. That's
pattern recognition, is what you're saying.
Yeah, that's determinism. Every result has a cause. If you deny that, you are saying that something can come from nothing. You're saying there are causeless effects. And that's complete nonsense.
What I want you to do is have a conversation with a mother who has a severe ADHD child, and then you go talk about cause and effect.
An appeal to emotion is going to be what? Why does that matter?
If you talk to someone who has ADHD, right? They're not in control all the time.
Did I say anything about control?
Well, you're saying
if you have
certain deterministic inputs create certain outputs.
If you have
and that's not the case in ADHD.
It's the case in ADHD because they have a hormonal imbalance that causes them to act differently. Not about control. See, there is a cause to everything you do.
I think, Swift, you have conflated the two with this simple question. If a mind cannot figure out a circle square, then it is technically not free. Is that how you're concluding it? And that's basically...
the way you're using freedom to say it has no constraints. I wouldn't say freedom is like that. I would say free will is the ability to make decisions based on for rational reasons. I would think that's obviously true. So that's what I would say when I talk about free will. But if you're saying it's the ability to do otherwise, as in not have constraints upon you, that's nonsense.
No, I agree with you. I said there are lots of constraints for human beings.
Then you agree with Alex O'Connor, and you're a determinist.
No, I don't agree with him. The reason is this. The reason is human beings have the capability to discern and to choose. Sometimes we make choices that are in our interest, but sometimes we can make, and we have the ability to make a choice where there is, we may have to give away our advantage.
I agree with you, but none of that means we're not determined. None of that does anything to determinism. You're still agreeing with Alex O'Connor and me. The only way you can get out, because I just said freedom is the ability to make choices for rational reasons. That's what free will is to me. I believe in free will. I just don't believe in the stupid.
Does Alex O'Connor believe in that, though?
Huh?
I mean, you believe in that. That's good. But does Alex O'Connor believe in that?
Pretty sure, yeah.
I don't think so. The way he was telling about being a hedonistic, being able to come up with scientific tools to map out motivations of people.
Yeah.
That doesn't really... do you believe that should be done?
Should be done?
Or could be done?
Could be done to a decent accuracy. I think the problem with that has more to do with the fact that it's such a complex system. The interactions between the mind, brain, the rest of your biology in the world is so complex. We live in a world where you can't predict the weather. And I think the weather is like orders of magnitude less complicated than the mind. So I'm not sure. It's probably a problem that's maybe solvable, but I think we'd have to we'd have to find some way to share qualia for that to happen.
Even God does not incriminate man. Even God does not incriminate man just for having some vague thoughts, unless man puts those thoughts into action. So, for a human to claim that much leverage is basically narcissistic.
Wait. What leverage? It's the ability to know, like the influences behind someone's thinking. That's not condemning them for it.
No.
Sam Harris, I think,
preemptively disabling. I mean, Sam Harris and Alex O'Connor were particularly focused on preemptively incriminating potential criminals based on their
Sam Harris directly argue that we shouldn't have prisons because of the way he views determinism, that no one's actually at fault for their actions. I think that's nonsense, but I don't think he was talking about trying to incriminate people. They might be trying to talk about like ways to detect the likelihood of someone becoming a criminal. That's might be useful.
In their philosophy, that's I mean, I think that's their philosophy of how they would inform a government to do things for future human societies.
Well, as I said, Harris has directly come out against prisons in general, so I somewhat doubt that. He's kind of a crackpot in that way, although maybe he's changed. That was years ago. But that doesn't, that doesn't change the fact of determinism, though. Like, you can not like their prescriptions because of it. I think I would agree with you that trying to figure out the mind for the express purpose of predicting, if someone's a bad egg and then putting him in prison preemptively is kind of dumb. But that's not because I don't think determinism is true. That's just because I think it's got a epistemic limit on it. That means that while it's ontologically true that everything in the universe is deterministic, we'll never be able to know the next step to any decent amount of accuracy to make it useful.
I would not agree with that statement that everything in the universe is deterministic. Of course,
Does Allah not know the future?
The thing is, I mean, even if you get down to atoms, we have a problem with them, especially with the double slit experiment. We are unable to know
that's an epistemic issue. That's about our knowledge, not about whether it's deterministic. You either have to.
Yeah, I mean,
you have two choices. Either things happen for reasons or they don't. That's a true dichotomy. You can pick don't, and then you can have non-deterministic world, but that has a lot of other baggage with it. Or you can pick things happen for reasons and accept the PSR. I think it's silly.
I mean, when systems are like to the degree of human beings having this faculty mind that we exercise, I think it's fair to say that we have free will. I mean, any statement other than like, for example, what Connor would say that we don't have freedom would be technically wrong, incorrect statement, inaccurate statement. So when basic atoms have behaviors that we can't really fully comprehend, and you could say that they're happening for a reason, for sure, I would agree with that. But at the same time, when those atoms become neurons in our brain, there is inherently so much more freedom that you can't really potentially define that system to be inherently lacking freedom. That's what I'm saying. So human beings have
what you mean by free will.
Having free will would be a very pragmatic statement, I suppose. Technically accurate statement, scientifically accurate statement.
I agree. Humans have free will, as long as you don't define it as the ability to do otherwise. It really depends on what you think freedom is. You have already said that it's like not having constraints. That's silly.
Mentally, what I meant is mentally. Of course, I'm a human being. I'm limited in how much I can do with my thoughts. But thought-wise,
you have
my thoughts cannot be constrained.
You tell me when you can picture a square circle, and I'll agree with you on that one.
The thing is, my brain has learned square is a square. It's got a shape.
So it has a constraint because it learned something. Interesting.
And no, the thing is this: you're not making a differentiation in learned knowledge. If I'm teaching my brain to recognize some shapes, then I'm teaching it out of free will. It's not like inherently.
Could you have pictured a square circle before you knew what a square and a circle were?
It's not that my brain had already known what a square was or what a circle was. Okay.
Could you have ever pictured an object with both 4 corners and no corners?
Again, I mean, these are not inquiries with which you can pin down and say our brains are.
Since you're just flopping around and not answering the question, can you picture an object with 4 corners and no corners? You said the mind is not constrained. Can you do that?
Well, look, I have to admit that I don't know how to answer your question at this point in time, but
because you can't. No one can.
I don't think there's a leverage for you asking that question.
Your mind is constrained by the rules of reality, aka the laws of logic. You can't picture things that don't have A equals A. You can't picture contradictions because your mind has a structural constraint. It's just, you're not free. You are constrained by reality. Everyone is.
Well, that would be a learned knowledge. If you did not learn those things, then potentially you are free to. Your mind hasn't got the impressions of what those things are. Basically,
How would you picture anything
What-
if you didn't learn things?
Sorry.
How would you picture anything if your mind had nothing in it?
So look, for example, if there was this reality of a object having four square corners as well as no corners, then the mind would absorb it. Don't you think so?
Yes. If it
Just
were
because-
possible, the mind
Yeah,
could
just
picture
because.
it. But
Absolutely.
because
So
it's
you're
not
giving it.
possible, the
You're
mind
positing an
can't picture it.
impossibility and claiming the mind should have this idea.
No,
The
I'm
mind should
telling you
technically make this.
there is
mind should-
true possibility, and the mind is constrained by it. You cannot picture things that are not possible.
So,
you're saying that,
okay, if that's the case, because humans picture or imagine a God, then do you think God becomes reality for you?
No.
Why not? Because you just said humans cannot
how do
picture
people
or
picture
imagine
God?
things that are not real. So if humans
Yeah.
are able to,
No,
if
no.
humans
I said
are
they can't
able to imagine
I did not
God,
say that. You're lying. I said they can't imagine things that aren't logical. I'm sorry. You said possible. I should say they can't imagine things that aren't logically possible. You can imagine things that aren't physically possible, like jumping to the moon, but you can't imagine something that's logically impossible. And
Okay,
God,
so you're saying
despite
that,
all the problems, isn't logically impossible.
So my mother was on her deathbed, and my siblings called me and said she's dying, and I had a conversation with her for 10 minutes, and then later on, months later, talking to my siblings, they said she was in a coma for 2 weeks. How do you explain that one?
Does that even
She
ask
could
it?
not talk.
Okay. And you had a conversation with someone that couldn't talk?
Yes. How do you
I would
explain
say
miracles?
You need to up your meds.
There's nothing wrong with my brain.
Considering the person who made his entire argument off of Quran verses that didn't exist is saying this, I'm not sure I'd go there.
Okay,
Swift.
so there's something wrong with me, not with reality, or with
Yes.
a God providing a miracle.
Look, if you want to quote miracles, miracles are, I'm sorry, you can say that if you want, but miracle answers anything. Anything can be a miracle. I can do anything I want with miracles. Great. Fine. If that's an experience you had, genuinely happy for you that you got to have that kind of conversation. That's great. But unfortunately, I've had no such experience, so...
Swift, I want to come back to what you were saying. I'm a bit slow. Excuse me for that. Okay, I
No
take
worries.
some time to process information. So you said the minds cannot imagine what is logically impossible. Is that what you said?
Correct.
So what is logically impossible? The minds cannot imagine.
Things that are not, well, things that aren't themselves and things that are contradictory. So,
But you also said, if I heard it right, and maybe other people here can pitch in if they heard what I heard from you. It was this: you said the mind cannot imagine things that aren't real. You said that.
no.
No?
I said possible. I should have said logically possible. That was a bit of a slip up, but I didn't use the word real because Superman is a thing. Like, that's obviously we can imagine things that aren't real. We can also imagine things that aren't physically possible, like jumping to the moon. But
So you're stating what is logically impossible, we cannot imagine that. Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Like, but I can't really qualify that for the reason being this. I mean, people have all sorts of weird concepts about God, for example, right?
sure,
Some of those are logically impossible, but they are still able to imagine those.
no.
Why not?
They're
For
able to
example,
articulate them in language. Like, I can say the words "a square circle," but if it's an actual contradiction, you can't picture it. Just like someone can say, what's a good God concept that's contradictory? Oh yeah, the Trinity. 3-in-1. They can say it and they draw nice little diagrams about it, but they can't actually picture it because it's a logical absurdity.
No, I mean, I have fundamental issue with this problem that you're bringing to the table, which is a circle square, because those circles and the squares have learned, human brains learn those shapes, and we have those very strong impressions of what these shapes are, basically. And then you want to create a situation where the brain should force imagine a shape that's square and circle, which I think it's a non sequitur to the brain.
Can you imagine
it's not a good input to the brain.
Can you imagine a towel that is both 100% wet and 100% dry?
Why create these conflicting ideas?
Because
wherein the brain already understands their conflicting ideas.
Yes, exactly. Your brain knows that's wrong. It is constrained by reality because
we have learned it. We've learned it.
Even before you learn, your brain can never picture something that's contradictory. It just can't. You can never picture something that has 4 corners and no corners because that's nonsensical. It's just gibberish. You can't picture something that is both itself and not itself. You can't picture
the mere
fact that a dog and be like, that's not a dog.
Okay, I got it. So if the universe did not have a creator, the assertion that it has a creator would be a contradiction. But anthropological evidence will show you a lot of human beings still imagine God.
Sure, but things being wrong doesn't make them contradictory.
So the documented near-death experiences that millions of people have, you just throw that away because it doesn't make logical sense to use square circle.
No, it makes perfectly logical sense. When you're near death, your brain is flooded with all sorts of chemicals. There's a reason why near-death experiences always match the culture the person's in. People in India have near-death Hindu experiences. People in the United States have near-death Christian experiences. People in the Muslim world have near-death Islamic experiences. If you're going to use NDEs, once again, this is the same problem with miracles you had in history that you were called out on. You can't just use it for your religion. It has to go to everybody.
So human beings identify square, they identify a circle. What they cannot identify is a square circle. So human beings identify universe to have a God, and human beings identify universe not to have a God.
Yeah, so if you held both those beliefs at once, that would be nonsense. You can't both be an atheist and a theist. That would be true.
Okay. I agree on that. But how any of these things are going to determine we are not inherently free? How?
Well, once again, it depends on what you mean by free. If you mean just like unmoored from cause and effect, then I would. This is just addressing the mind doesn't have constraints point. That's what that whole tangent was about. I would say that the reason why we're not free in the absolute terms and that you can choose whatever you want whenever you want is because all your choices are caused by something. You make choices for reasons, and those reasons cause your choices. Your choices aren't unmoored from reasons. So they're determined by whatever was before. I learned things that determines what I know now.
Okay, for this very exact same reason, I could argue. Now, humans are inherently free because even these ontological questions, whether there is a creator or not, we still are not caused by this assumed cause that is bringing in determinism. So we are not caused to make either choices, like there is a God or there isn't a God. So nothing is causing us to believe whether there's
no
a God
reason.
or not.
Are you saying you have no reason to believe what you believe?
Those reasons are learned. Those
Yeah.
reasons are learned, right?
And before you had the reasons to believe, did you believe?
Okay, my argument for belief is a historical event. Okay, I believe human beings have had a memory of God. Okay, that's why I believed even before I learned why I should believe in God. I think I believed because I had a memory of God. And this memory of God could be forgotten. You know, people forget memories, right? So some people get busy with their lives, they forget the memory of God, or they forget the memory of somebody they knew before, right? That's possible. So people don't believe because they've forgotten this memory.
It's an interesting idea.
But this choice itself is not predetermined. It's nothing determines it. So that's why I'm saying technically human beings are free.
You just said what determines it. If you forgot the memory, that's a determining factor. If you forget the memory, you don't believe in God. Done.
The reason why we believed was because of the memory. But if there was no memory, if there was no memory,
the memory
that's correct. That's correct.
So determinism.
Swift. If there was no memory, then that determinism would not be there, right? So memory is just a help.
There's still a determinism.
It's a help in the way. It's just a help in the way. Okay. If there was no memory, then technically, there would be nothing basically. Because there is a help in the way.
But so you would have to be
the help in the way does not make you inherently determinant system.
You just literally gave a deterministic system. You said a memory was what caused you to believe. You just gave a cause for your belief.
But that is not making your system deterministic.
It
for the reason that
is. You said the reason you believe is this.
It's a foreign source. It's a foreign interference. That's what I mean to say. It's a foreign interference. Your mind itself is inherently free, but because of this information,
foreign things, you wouldn't have a mind without an external world. Your mind is generated by the body's interaction with the external world. Like all of your ideas are coming somewhat from the external world. They don't just like.
And what I'm saying is one of those ideas, even before you were born, obviously baby does know a lot in the womb even before the birth.
Sure.
That's for sure. Okay. But obviously you can say the baby doesn't know about, or baby hasn't yet learned about the creator or the concepts of philosophy and stuff like that. You can say that that's a fair statement to make.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is this, that memory of a creator is the first event that happens when the neurons are born, right? So that's where we are born with this memory. Okay. Now, if it wasn't for that memory, then our brains are technically free. They're not deterministic. Now, just because we carry this memory is a helping hand for us to realize we have a creator.
Okay, and realizing we have a creator is believing in that creator, yeah? So the fact you remember it causes you to believe it. You don't have freedom to believe things that you don't have the freedom to just choose not to believe something that you're convinced of. Beliefs aren't chosen. You don't choose what to believe in. You are convinced by things and then you believe them. You have a memory apparently of God, so you believe in God. Your
You're
belief
right.
is caused by the memory.
This articulation of yours just is I agree with you. You're correct. And this is what I'm saying. This is a helping hand. This helping hand was necessary. Okay. But
correct.
If you want to ignore this belief in God thing, our minds are inherently free. We make decisions.
You've repeatedly showed the opposite. Do you have anything you've ever done in your life for no reason?
Lots of things, I suppose.
Really? You've had things that you just do, just for no reason at all. Not for bad reasons, not that were mistakes, but for no reason. You just were like,
for no reason. Yeah, for no reason. It's just for the sake of it. Yeah, I think I've done lots of things like that. Yeah.
For the sake of it, like what?
Like, I couldn't tell you for why I did certain things in my life. I mean, not everything that I did
Yes.
was based on a reason, right? Or a
I would strongly
stimulus.
disagree, I hope. Otherwise, you're just like, I'm not even sure that's physically possible. I would actually say it's not, but sure. But my point is, as you said with belief, you have things that are causing you to believe. I would say the same thing about me believing there are no gods. I have things that cause me to believe that. I can't believe in God because I'm not convinced there are gods. I'm actually convinced there are not gods. So I can't choose to believe. There is no choice there. It's just I have certain knowledge that I've learned, and that compels me to believe a certain way. Just like I can see 2 + 2, and I'm compelled to believe that's 4. I can't choose to believe it's 5. I can say the words, but my brain will not believe it. So that's what Alex O'Connor, at least, is talking about when he talks about determinism. And that's what most compatibilists are talking about when they talk about determinism. It's the fact that there are causes for every effect.
Do you have issue with bringing your footage into the stream? I'm just asking out of the.
I'd have to put on something. I don't think you want to see me right now. Why?
Not right now, but just in the future.
Not really. I have a camera. It's not usually.
Okay, so if you can, then I would want to do a stream with you on one of the videos of Alex O'Connor and perhaps even Sam Harris's video, and we can just play those videos and talk about it. What do you reckon?
I don't want to defend other atheists like that, especially not Sam Harris. I don't want to defend Sam Harris. Him and I are not, in agreement on many things. The only thing that I was really talking about was the determinism and the PSR part. Although the trying to call other people narcissistic from theists is also kind of funny. But
I would agree with you partly.
Yeah.
For the fact that a lot of theists are narcissistic. I mean, I know that for sure, but but that's not what God would want people to do. Being religious, we are not supposed to be narcissistic, but unfortunately, that's the case. Yeah, I agree with you.
Sure.
But a debate review would be you're highlighting your views. You're not supporting one or the other. So I think it might be a good thing.
It's not really like. I know.
I would really like to see it.
On Alex O'Connor. Let's just focus on Alex O'Connor. Forget about Sam Harris.
Okay. You have like a specific. So you want to do a review of Alex O'Connor's arguments in some specific video?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and then we can converse about what is some of the philosophy with which atheists are trying to make or assert, their position to be the most ethical, most civilized position, and stuff like that.
I'm not sure I would agree with Alex on ethics. I think he's a subjectivist. I think. That's a good question. Does Alex even cover ethics?
No, he's not subjectivist. He's a
realist.
Realist, yeah. He's a realist.
Really?
Yeah, of course. He's a realist, yeah.
Okay. I have him 7 months ago with a thing that says ethics equal emotions. Oh man. Telling a Christian why there's no moral right or wrong. No, I think he's a subjectivist, man. Here's him telling a Christian why there is no moral right or wrong. I think he's a subjectivist. Oh no.
I heard him actually make a statement that he was a realist.
Maybe that changed. Ethan Brown and consciousness. Is he? Oh man, this is like a 30-minute. Who is he talking to? This I think is an ortho bro. He might be an emotivist.
Do you have access to him? I mean, have you spoken to him before, or
no?
Are you on his socials? No.
No. I watch his channel every once in a while, but I don't talk to the man. He's
Yeah.
he's out there. He's out there debating people, but once again, I don't talk to that many fellow atheists. And
I would love
especially
to actually. Yeah, sorry to cut you off. Actually, I would want to have a debate with you on what could be evidence for belief in a God. Would you be okay
what
with that?
could be evidence. Man, that's a
Yeah,
broad.
I mean, is there evidence for belief in a God or not?
Yeah, I'd say there are some evidences. The fine tuning argument, I think, gets you somewhere. I forget Platinga. Platinga? Oh, I forget his name. What does he do? I don't have the book.
You said
Reasons.
you're an engineer. What sort of an engineer are you?
Software.
Oh, okay.
Warranted Christian belief. That's the one. He makes kind of a decent, I guess, kind of cumulative argument. It's not great, but it's not the worst. Your fine tuning, I think, is probably the only one that I'd give real credence to, and only very specific, like universal constant sort of fine tuning arguments are decent. I don't know. Are there other ones? I mean, I think the problem is always going to be the personal part. You can pretty easily get to a necessary being, and I'd buy that, but the problem is having it be personal. That's where the problem's always going to be. Having the ultimate thing be personal. There's not a lot of, the problem with this is because it's metaphysics. Evidence is kind of tricky. You'd have to come up with some sort of a priori argument that makes the attributes of God necessary for something.
I don't think there is any attribute of God except the creator attribute that
Sure.
you could work with. All other attributes of God are human-derived impositions on God, which with God would work fine. You know what I mean? But other than the creator attribute, there isn't anything at all to work with, basically.
Okay. I mean, creators and attributes that's kind of a human label on like a task. That's kind of. I mean, then you get into the problem. Was time created? Would be the question I'd go with there.
How about we do this? Let's have a discussion on some of the theories, like the tag or the.
I don't want to. We can do tag if you want, but oh God, so many people on the internet use that freaking argument.
Ontological. We can explore all of these theories that sort of predicate whether God exists or not, and then I have a few theories in my mind which I've worked out, and I would want to discuss those as well.
Well, if you have a memory, like it sounds like you're like the main thing that drives you is kind of a personal experience aspect. And I guess Dennis would fall into the same category with his miracle experience. Again, I guess in the general way, that's.
I discuss two things in my book. One is a memory argument, and the other one is a hellfire argument. And briefly, I think I discussed the hellfire argument in one of the debates with William Ulrich when we were debating about whether Jesus was God. So I discussed the hellfire argument there briefly. So these are the two arguments I have. I mean, I believe the ontological argument and the Kalam's. I think the Kalam's.
Cosmological.
What is that? Cosmological argument. I don't think they're inherently coherent arguments to make. And even tag, I don't necessarily think that's a good argument for God's existence.
It's a great debate strategy.
Yeah, I think if you're okay, then we can agree on a plan for a date, and we can talk about these things. What do you think?
Yeah, sure, man. I'm always down to talk about this sort of stuff. I just do this sort of thing for fun. I just love me some philosophy.
Could you please send me an email, Swift? If you can pull my
Sure,
email
is your
on
email
channel
up on the.
description.
I don't really have a. It's on your channel.
Yeah, on my channel. Yeah.
I unfortunately can ramble for days about this sort of thing, so. I actually did have fun going through the Quran, though. That was a good time. I do have to thank you, Dennis, if you're still here for that little side. That was actually fun.
Yeah, I have wild theories. So they're not what you'd hear anywhere else.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting idea. The, where did Muhammad get his army from? But, do I see your email here? View email address. Oh, it's making me do a CAPTCHA. That's why. Okay. Have you ever read through the Quran, Dennis?
No.
I actually
It's
would.
very hard to read.
So. Well, not in Arabic. I wouldn't suggest that unless you speak Arabic. But.
Not at all. I'm an American through and through.
I'm not sure I can assent to that, but I get you. I understand. Yeah, I actually, it's not a very long read. It's surprisingly fun. Yeah, you can definitely see where the Islamic world got off the ground. Yeah, it's actually a pretty well put together holy book, comparatively. Very poetic. Although I hear, and I don't know if someone here actually does speak Arabic, that it's a lot better in Arabic.
Yeah, it's beautiful in Arabic, and for sure.
Gmail be slow. All right, got your email here. Boop. All right, sent you an email.
Thank you.
We can kick around some general topics. If you want to watch an Alex O'Connor video, we can. But we can both mock one of his ethics views if he's a subjectivist. If you just want to make fun of him.
Okay.
I'm always down to mock subjectivists, like Christians.
So what was the email that you sent me to? Like, I still didn't get it.
Should have just been sent.
Okay, got it.
You got it?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, just flagging.
Yeah, Daniel's a scholar, so he's not going to be into that whole mocking thing. I've sent him stuff, and he won't touch it.
Oh, come on.
He's got too much integrity for that, so keep that in mind.
Everybody likes making fun of the, emotivists. They're empathy equals ethics is never, not ripe for poking fun at. Oh man, I do love that.
Hey, one more thing I wanted to ask you is this: what translation do you read of the Quran with you?
I'll grab it. Who translated you? This was Ahmad Ali.
Okay. Just to let you know that even I have my own Quran translation, which is available online if you want to access that.
Oh, you
The
actually
link is in.
translated it? Wow.
Yeah. So the link is in my description on my channel, so you can
cool.
access that.
Yeah, this guy apparently was out of Princeton doing it. It's kind of nice because it has the Arabic next to the English, which is kind of
Yeah.
But
So can you read Arabic? Are you familiar with that?
No, I can't read Arabic. I can read Japanese, but not Arabic. I can only learn so many scripts.
Yeah,
Although,
I understand.
you know, they're kind of, I don't know, like Arabic is very cursive-y.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I could write it even if I, yeah, that would be pretty crazy. It might be something to look into, though. I do like languages. But yeah, that's, whenever I see Arabic writing, I'm like, that's gorgeous. I have no idea what's going on here.
Well,
it's always nice to see the straight size, though.
Yeah, it was a fantastic stream, Dennis.
Yeah.
And the Swift and also Isa Kabir. Thank you for showing up here, and I really appreciate your partaking here.
Yeah,
and I have to go. I have to really excuse now because I've got to go and do some things.
2 hours is
But
a bit long.
yeah, I will send an email to you, Swift, and we'll work it out. And
Sure.
yeah, thank you, everybody, and God bless you all. And
Thanks, guys.
we'll see you next time.
Thanks.
Bye. Bye.